All right, in section 2.2, we get going into slope and rate of change. This is kind of one of the main things that you should remember from Algebra 1. Hopefully it was hit on pretty good. So ratio of vertical change over horizontal change, which you probably talked about as rise over run in Algebra 1. That is what the slope is, or a rate of change. And it's always represented by the letter M. Okay, so when you think of everyday life, like miles per hour, that would be a rate of change. Or if you think of like how many cents per ounce, or the cost per ounce, cost per pound, things like that. Like if you buy fruit or vegetables, it's usually so much per pound. That will be a rate of change. And we can find this by counting the boxes of a graph. So it's the number up over the number left and right. And just so you know, up is positive and down is negative. And right is positive and left is negative. And we can find by knowing the two ordered pairs. So there's generally, you're given two ordered pairs where there's an x and a y, and then there's a second x and a second y. And we find it by doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, this is the slope formula equation. So, classifying lines using slopes. A positive slope will look something like this. Rises left to right. So a positive slope is rising from left to right. A zero slope has no slope at all. It is a flat line. I think of it as if you put a ball down and the slope is 0, the ball will not roll. So zero slope is horizontal. Undefined slope. So undefined slope to me is like you can't even put the ball on it. It's impossible to even put the ball on there to see if it rolls or not. And this is vertical. All right, and then negative slope falls from left to right. Okay, now I'm going to add a quick note up here, or off to the side I will. Yeah, I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to write Hoy and Bucks. So Hoy means horizontal. It is a zero slope, and it's going to be y equals. Fux means vertical line, undefined slope, and it's x equals. So Hoy-Vux is going to be an acronym that we use throughout the year, and that's what it means. It means Hoy means horizontal line, zero slope, y equals. Vux means vertical line, undefined slope, and it's x equals. Okay, so in the examples on the bottom, it says find the slope of the line passing through the given points. Decide whether it rises, falls, is horizontal, or is vertical. So we have, as we talked about, an x1, y1, x2, y2. So if we want to find slope, m equals y2 minus y1, so 4 minus negative 5, and then x2 minus x1, so 8 minus 3. So 4 minus negative 5 is positive 9. 8 minus 3 is 5. So the slope is 9 over 5. This means that it rises. It goes up from left to right. In number 2, same thing. We have x1, y1. We have x2, y2. So we would find the slope. -2 minus 7 over 8 minus 8. So we get -9 over 0. So now, this is where it gets a little tricky. If you take your calculator and you do -9 divided by 0, you can't divide by 0 because it's impossible. Your calculator will say error. You can't take something and break it into 0 groups. So if you ever divide by 0 and there's a 0 on the bottom, this is undefined. This is an undefined slope. And undefined, think hoi vux. Vux has a u. Undefined is going to be a vertical line. So it's undefined and it's vertical. All right, comparing steepness, which is really what slopes do. The bigger the absolute value of the slope of the line, the steeper the line is. Okay, and that's why we say the bigger the absolute value, because if it's a really, really negative number, like -10, -10 is steeper than like -1. It's going down faster than -1 is going down. So how we do this is tell which line is steeper. If you look at line 1, we'll find the slope. So line 1 and line 2. So line 1, you're going to take y2 minus y1. So slope equals -7 minus -3 over x2 minus x1. So 4 minus 2. So the slope is -7 minus -3 would be -4 divided by 2. So the slope of this line is -2. Then we find the slope of our second line. y2 minus y1 is 5 minus 2. x2 minus x1 is 4 minus -1. So 5 minus 2 is 3. 4 minus -1 is 5. So the slope is 3 over 5. So which one is steeper? Well, the absolute value of -2 is 2. So what's a bigger number? 2 or 3/5? 2 is actually bigger than 3/5. So line 1 is steeper. If you graphed them, they would look like this. I'm going to slide over. If you graphed it, line 1 would be like, so down 2 to the right 1, it would look like this. And then line 2 would be going up 3 to the right 5. Line 2 would look kind of like that. So the steeper one would be the yellow one. It just, which one is increasing faster? And that was just a rough sketch of those. All right, so slopes and parallel and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines do not intersect, and they have the same slope. So if you sketched a picture of them, it would look like this. And I know it's not the greatest, but those two lines would be parallel because they never cross. Perpendicular lines make a right angle, and the slopes are opposite reciprocals. So it'll look like this. And then the other one will be coming down to make a right angle. So those would be what perpendicular lines would look like. And there's one example. And then we're done for the day after this. So Tell whether lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So are they the same slope? Are they opposite reciprocals, or are they neither? Before we get into this, I do want to talk about what opposite reciprocals look like. So one example of opposite reciprocals would be like, if you get 1/3 for one slope, the opposite reciprocal would be the opposite is negative, and you'd flip it to get 3/1. These two slopes are opposite reciprocals. So just to review, that's what that is. You flip it and you make it the opposite sign. So we need to find the slopes of line 1 and line 2. So for line 1, the slope is equal to -2 minus -2 divided by 3 minus 1. Okay, again, I'm using these points. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We would get 0 over 2. So 0 over 2, what is 0 divided by 2? 0 divided by 2 is 0. So if the slope is 0, think hoi. So hoi vux, think. Hoi vux. Which one is 0 slope? It would be a horizontal line. So 0 is horizontal. And then over here, we're going to do line 2. So the slope of line 2 is 0 minus 5 divided by 4 minus 4. And again, we're using these points. Zero minus 5 divided by 4 minus 4 is -5 over 0. So can we divide by 0? You would get undefined. And if it's undefined, it means it's a vertical line. Okay, and I purposely made this example so we would get horizontal and vertical, or undefined and 0. These actually are opposite reciprocals. I know that the numbers are different, like one has a 2, one has -5, but these are actually opposite reciprocals, so the answer would be perpendicular. This is the one weird case where they don't come out to look like opposite reciprocals, but they're still perpendicular. All right, and that's all we got.